Well, we cannot seem to stop talking about this, even during the break. Egg prices, you already know, they're soaring. Now, a Bronx bodega has taken a unique approach to make them more affordable to local residents.
All right, you be the judge of this. Instead of selling eggs by the dozen, the market is opting to sell so-called Lucy's for a whole lot less.
So as many of you already know, egg prices are through the roof. It is not unusual for you to walk into a store, find an egg carton that just a couple of years ago would have cost you $2 or $2.50 max for a dozen, and see that the price on that carton is $11 to $12, even $13, and we're not even talking about the fancy free-range eggs that normally cost more back in the day, because those could be north of $20 per dozen as of right now. In fact, I remember going to a Costco equivalent rather recently, and I noticed a bunch of different people were buying the 5 dozen pack of eggs because it was priced there at $25, and they were buying them in the bulk load, like a bunch of different cases of these eggs. And I thought to myself I'd come back later, but apparently everybody is experiencing an absolute shortage, empty shelves, and this is due to the fact that we are experiencing a wave of bird flu that is hitting our chickens quite hard in the United States of America. And by the way, this bird flu actually occurred during the Biden administration as well in 2022. That's when eggs skyrocketed under his watch. And unfortunately, the bird flu is back with a vengeance, so we are going to see eggs go up even more until we can get some new chickens into the field laying eggs, and prices can eventually come down. Now, we're going to talk about this as well as this bodega owner's innovative solution as labeled by the local media. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Now look, I understand that eggs are political football as of right now, because this is something that the Biden administration was attacked over back in the day. And obviously you have a bunch of left-wing people that are trying to attack the Trump administration over it. But both of those shocks in egg prices were due to the fact that we had an avian flu killing off the chickens. So I think it would make a lot of sense for us to set aside the politics for a moment and just talk about whether or not we think that this bodega owner has actually come up with a good solution for his customers.
By now, we've all seen the prices. Sticker shock when paying for eggs. How much are you paying for eggs right now?
$12.99.
Have you ever paid this much?
No, and I never will. Again. It's horrible.
So first of all, I just want to say I absolutely love the goofiness of the local news sometimes, because they go into a grocery store, they go to the egg aisle, they point to the price tag, it says $12.99 right on that price tag. I don't know if that's for 18 eggs or for a dozen egg. It doesn't matter at this moment in time. And then they go interview somebody who paid for those eggs, and they're like, how much did you pay for them? How much money did you throw down on the counter for those eggs? And she answers the question that they already knew, because again, they already went to the egg aisle, they already saw the price of eggs, and they decided to interview somebody at that very same store. So this whole exercise is completely pointless. They just got in this woman's face for no reason when she's trying to do grocery shopping, all as a setup, all to lay the groundwork to talk about this guy who's selling Lucy's. And by the way, to be 100% clear for everybody out there in the audience, when the prices go up and consumption comes down, that ultimately is going to end up leading to some of the prices dropping. It's going to lead to more people trying to get chickens, and eventually this is how a market sorts itself out. This is much better as an alternative to price fixing eggs, because what ends up happening, like the example of the Costco that you'll see where they keep the eggs at the same price, is that those eggs go out the door and then there's a shortage for everybody else because people are overbuying at that artificially cheap rate.
But at Pamela's Green Deli in the Bronx, the owner's trying to help out his customers. If you can't pay $10.99 for a carton, how does $2.99 for 3 eggs sound? Radames Rodriguez is selling loose eggs, 3 eggs in a bag. He started doing this 2 weeks ago. He puts out about 5 dozen a day and says he sells out.
So a couple of things. Obviously, these eggs should be eaten rather soon because you don't have the expiration date on the side of the carton that you would normally have when you're looking to buy eggs. In addition to that, there have been times where I've went to the grocery store and I see that you can buy a half dozen eggs. So this is not something that is particularly unusual. That being said, the guy's selling them in a plastic bag, and then he puts them in a plastic bag, which by the way, is illegal in the city of New York. We ban plastic bags in these bodegas, in these delis, if you guys are unaware. So they're filming this guy committing a crime. But you notice how he just kind of plops that down in the bag right before the camera? I would be like, bro, I just gave you $3, $1 each for these eggs. Don't crack my eggs. They're quite expensive. They're more valuable than gold. In fact, I'm thinking about doing a heist at the chicken's coop and getting myself some eggs in order to distribute them throughout all of society. Just kidding about that. I don't encourage crimes on the actual Justice Warrior channel, but we are at that point in time where we're going to start seeing massive egg thefts in response to the higher prices. Mark my words.
If you only have $20 and you're already spending $12, $11 for 1 dozen eggs, then what's going to happen with the rest of the stuff, like bread, oil, milk, and things like that?
So everything this guy said makes 100% sense. You have a bunch of people that come into his store that might have a set amount that they're willing to spend on their groceries, on their food. In the example that he gives, it's $20. Eggs are around $12, so that makes up a significant portion of their budget. So the chances are, in this particular neighborhood, people are going to leave the eggs behind. And if they leave them behind, you end up in a situation where you have this resource that is, again, at a high price that people are refusing to pay. And as a consequence of that, because eggs don't last forever, they do actually expire, this guy is going to end up in a situation where, since his customer base can't afford to buy eggs, they're just kind of going to rot on the shelf. So he decided that he's going to break up the dozens, sell them in smaller increments, and I think that makes perfect sense. However, I will note that apparently the egg price in this particular store is $10.99, meaning $11, and he is selling the eggs for $3, which means for a dozen, he will actually make $12 rather than $11, again, according to this report. So some people could view this as price gouging, but the fact of the matter is, he seems to be meeting the customers where they're at. $1 for egg is close enough to what they're actually selling for in the dozen, and if you want the cheaper price, you just buy a little bit more in bulk, which is how many times many products operate in the United States of America. It's just what we expect as bulk is not usually a dozen eggs. What we expect as bulk is usually when you go to BJ's or Costco or one of those equivalents and you buy the 3 dozen or 5 dozen or something of the sort.
Rodriguez has been in business for 40 years and says he has never seen the price of eggs this high. Selling loose eggs like this, he says, was a no-brainer. This is how they sell them back at home in the Dominican Republic.
Now, I didn't actually know this, but apparently the inspiration for this comes from how they sell eggs back in the Dominican Republic, which is at these smaller increments, which makes a lot of sense because people are typically poorer in the Dominican Republic, and you're not necessarily going to have the same access to refrigeration, and typically, when you buy eggs, you are going to use them rather quickly in comparison to the United States of America, so the bulk buying, again, just makes more sense. Now, I will also point out that the egg shock ends up having downstream effects on the rest of the economy because eggs are an ingredient in multiple different things, so we're either seeing prices hiked at certain restaurants or we're actually seeing, in response to the egg prices going up, those items being removed or the recipes being changed. So yeah, it has devastating consequences, and I think this is a very sensible way to kind of ameliorate those consequences for the people in this particular area that, again, are probably not willing to throw down $11 or $12 on one specific item, but might be willing to just grab a couple of eggs here and there based on the fact that they don't have to spend more money overall, even though you're not saving per egg.
Seeing the people when they see the price and the eggs, and sometimes they leave the eggs because it's too expensive. So I call my partner and I told him, listen, why can't we not do it, the same thing I used to do in my country? Selling loose eggs.
Before the bird flu outbreak, most recent, he was selling a dozen eggs for $5.99. But for this customer, $1 an egg is still too expensive.
And if I don't have eggs, I don't have them.
Now, the local news ends up mentioning that before the bird flu, he was selling eggs for $5.99, which, by the way, might sound expensive for those of you who don't live in the city of New York. But the fact of the matter is, these delis often have higher prices per item than you would see at a typical grocery store, and that is because they have less economies of scale in order to make a profit on. And in addition to that, these delis actually rely on foot traffic, on the convenience factor in terms of travel time, in order to satisfy their customer base, and not necessarily competing on prices like those big box stores that you actually have to drive out to, which that's their whole appeal. You're going to buy a lot of stuff, you'll drive out there, but it's worth it for you to do so, even though it's going to take more time in comparison, because the savings on the items that you're buying are going to make that a good investment of your time time and energy. These delis operate completely differently. Again, it's all about walkability, grabbing what you need 2 minutes from your home and then going back to your home. So they're not going to compete on high prices. And I also want you guys to understand that the egg prices in the city of New York in regular ordinary grocery stores that I went to were nowhere near $5.99 a dozen prior to the bird flu. Again, they were maybe a little bit up, maybe $2.50 to $3, but this is normal for a New York City deli or New York City bodega in order to charge these premium prices.
We know our community, and we know how hard it is for them. This is the people who's coming every day for their meal. You know, it's not like they have the money to go to the supermarket. So everything that I could do for them to get what they want, I'm gonna do.
Look, I'm gonna be 100% clear about this. I'm not against this. I'm supportive of this man selling eggs in this way, especially if it's more convenient for his customers, and it ends up improving his business during the course of time that we have this shock in egg prices. It appears to be a win-win scenario, but make no mistake about it. If the circumstances were a little bit different, and if instead of a small business owner from the Dominican Republic pitching this, you had corporate CEOs at Walmart trying to push this idea out to the public, you would see backlash against this. You would see allegations of price gouging, which just goes to show you the way that people tend to propagandize on behalf of certain people and certain businesses, and propagandize against certain people and certain businesses. And I am certain, I'm 100% sure that there are some naysayers out there in the comments that are throwing those kind of comments at this individual. But the fact of the matter is, he knows his customer base. He knows the people that he interacts with daily. He knows that he's doing convenience rather than competing on price. But in this particular instance, he's offering them something, which is a way to buy eggs that is not typically offered. And that is a sensible thing to do. That actually ends up making it much more easy for people to be able to engage with his business. And I'm 100% on board for it during these trying times. Now, of course, hopefully more chickens are coming. Hopefully more eggs are coming. Hopefully supply ends up balancing this out. But it seems like this bird flu strain that comes in and around every couple of years is going to be something that we're going to end up expecting for years to come in terms of price shocks for the eggs that we're actually dealing with. And by the way, I know some people are going to say, just get chickens, have your own chickens, and they'll produce your own eggs. And if you can do so, and you want to take the time and put in the energy in order to have chickens, I guess feel free to do so. But I live in a New York City apartment, and in no way, shape, or form am I keeping a chicken in here. And most people don't actually have the time nor the ability to raise chickens. They don't have the space requirements and whatnot in order to do so. Also, in addition to that, it's not like chickens that you keep in your backyard can't also catch the avian flu and also pass it to the other chickens and also lead to devastating downstream results for your own chickens. So yeah, maybe don't tell people that are regular ordinary people to, get chickens as a solution. Obviously, there's going to be more stuff about this, more talk about this as a political football, but let's understand what we're going through right now. Let's understand what we went through in the previous years under the Biden administration. And for those people who were attacking Biden over the price of eggs back then, even though it was due to the bird flu, I guess you can't say anything when people attack Trump now, even though the flu outbreak happened under Biden even the second time. But whatever, this isn't about the politics. This is about the practicalities. And in terms of practicalities, I do support this. But of course, those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the egg Lucy epidemic. Till next time.